everyone. This is Kim O'Neill from the Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show, and you're listening to the Going North podcast with the hilarious Dom Brightmon. Be sure to subscribe to his show so you don't miss any episodes, and remember, every day is always a new day.
That's right, folks. This is an invasion, baby. It's an invasion for yours truly, the host, Dominique Dom Brightmon, baby. Woo! Yes, indeed. SelfieCast, baby. That's right. The Going North podcast is an informational, inspirational show where different authors come on and share their goods, their services, stories of trials, tribulations they had to overcome, as well as helping you to realize that success is tangible. Well, my friends, one thing I've noticed, at least from some little social media experiences, that usually when I announce something about me, sometimes they get a little more excited about that than sometimes when I bring on guests on the show. And not to mention, this show kind of had a rough start in the beginning because there was no episode 0. I just started from episode 1, little to no explanation of how it started. I just went ahead, pressed record with what I had, and I just started. And this is kind of like my reintroduction to the host himself, Dom Brightmon. So if you are still tuning in, you win at life, and thank you for listening, because to be honest, I wouldn't have made it this far if I didn't have somebody listening to this show. Even though folks aren't always vocal at times about this show, which I would appreciate folks to be a little bit more vocal when they listen in, is the fact that yours truly works tirelessly hard, and it's all because of what you do and what the guests do, and my mission to advance others. My mission of advancing others is part of my living philosophy that's gained through a bunch of reading of personal and self-development books. But I want to share with you 3 things that have helped me to get to 300 plus episodes and counting. And I'm probably going to do a separate episode on the top 10 downloaded episodes of this podcast, because when I looked at the list, it was pretty surprising, to be honest, especially how some of those guests came to me, not to mention how I felt during one of those interviews in particular, but more to come on that. But there are going to be 3 separate ways to help you advance further in life, my friends. So if you got pen and paper, get it out right now. And the good news is it's a podcast, not a live recording in a studio audience or a live event center, even though that would be freaking sweet right now, is to really give you 3 magical steps to really help you get closer to what you want out of life. And these 3 points actually come from my distinguished Toastmaster speech I gave in May of 2019. Or was it October? Yeah, it was October 2019, yep. Either way, it was 2019 nonetheless. But here we go. The first thing is idea. Idea. When it comes to an idea, you have to know what you want to do, what you want to get out of life, and what you want to accomplish. This podcast started back in 2017 because folks for years have been telling me I got this radio voice, and I'm like, all right, let's put this thing into use. Because God gives you gifts to gift it to other people and not for yourself to be selfish with it. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast. I have no idea what the heck it's going to be about, but I'm going to start one. And that happened because my book, Going North, itself, it was a great book, still is a great book, and you should pick it up right now while you're listening to this or after you're listening to this, is the fact that even though it's a good book, the classic saying, you can build a better mousetrap. If people don't know about it, then what's the point? And I have to say, when you have an idea, one of my ideas to market my book was to start a podcast. And after reading this wonderful book by Derek Sivers, the founder of CD Baby, he mentioned in that story, and it's a good book too. It's you could probably finish that book in an hour. It's a one sit and read and you're done type of book. When he talked about how he made his site a website where independent artists can sell their music, because that was something that a lot of independent artists are missing, is a place to promote and sell their music. And he made it all about independent independent musicians, I should say, independent musicians. And my show originally was going to be about professional development, self-development authors, especially self-published ones, to give them a place to get their voices heard. Because I myself was a first-time self-published author writing professional development books, self-help books, nonfiction books to inspire people. And one lady in particular, the lovely Odessa Rose, who is episode, I believe, 13 of this show, because I met her at the Baltimore Book Festival back in 2017. She was walking around taking pictures of the authors and giving us a quick 1 minute, 60-second opportunity to just tell the world on Instagram, on her Instagram page, what's your book? Like, hey, I'm Dom Brightmon. This is my table here, and I wrote this wonderful book called Going North, Tips and Techniques to Advance Yourself. Raised my thumb in the air and said, this is the self-help book for the distracted mind. And after I took a picture with her and she gave me that 60 seconds to actually promote myself, that was probably a persuasion trick she either consciously or unconsciously did, because when she saw the little flyer I had, she was like, hey, so do you have fiction authors on? And I'm like, maybe, sure, why not? And I had her on my show, and she's actually one of the most downloaded shows ever, because she is a local author in the Baltimore area. And she really was so friendly, so nice, and she gave me that opportunity to share my book, my quick message in 60 seconds, and I had that opportunity. And it's like, you can't really say no to somebody who really gave you a gift like that. And that ended up being one of the most downloaded shows. But back to the point about my first word, idea. Idea. What do you want to do in life? What do you want to get out of life? One of the main points I remember from Odessa's episode is that you should share with everyone, or at least with one person a day, that you wrote a book if you were an author. You should share with at least one person a day about something that you do. You should share every day that you do something in this world to make it better. And whatever that thing is, you have to have that idea. Do you want to be a motivational speaker? Where do I start? You could get on Facebook Live every day. You could speak, especially in this virtual space. You can write down a single message, get your message out there, do it over and over again. Join Toastmasters and polish your craft. And not only hone your skills, but polish your craft and get even better. Do you want to write a book? Do you want to become a best-selling author? Do you want to become a great author? Like in my case, I wanted to start a podcast. What I wanted to do, I wanted to start a podcast. I read a few books on podcasting, and I listened to a few podcasts, and one of my first life coaches at the time that I hired, he mentioned that I should also study top podcasters and what they do. And after listening to some of them, and especially John Lee Dumas being one of them, I figured, all right, I'll take his advice and I'll just launch with what I have. And that was how the podcast was born, or at least part of it, because I had this idea. I had this problem. Like, all right, I have this book, sales are stopping a bit. I'm losing momentum here. I had this idea, start a podcast. It was something I wanted to do before even writing a book came to me. And I'm like, all right, I'll make it a wonderful podcast. And you're now listening to the Mr. Music and Reads podcast that has been redubbed and rebranded as the Going North podcast, because one of my buddies in the coaching business, she said, hey, you got the book Going North. You say Going North. Why don't you call your podcast Going North? And I was like, you know what? Shoot, I will do it. I'll freaking do it. So when you have an idea, you have to take that action. You'll have to get the books. You'll have to do the listening. You have to do the reading. You have to take some action listening to, heck, even talking it out with people. Because one thing about an idea, you have to take it to people who will actually help you keep that idea flying. Because one thing you don't want to do is tell your idea or tell your dream to a person who's going to kill your idea. Because an idea, as soon as you come up with it, that's the entry phase. See your idea as your newborn child. As a newborn child. since not everyone is a parent listening to this, obviously, is the fact that you have to feed it, you have to clothe it, you have to encourage it to crawl, and eventually it walks, and then it grows up and eventually runs. And if you want your idea to succeed, you have to get around people who would encourage you and help you to refine that idea. And my buddy that helped me to refine my idea was a jewel, and still is a jewel because she's still alive to this day. And it's one of those things where you have to realize, you know what? Who in my life will help me refine my ideas? Who in my life will motivate me and encourage me to follow through with this plan that I need to create for this idea that I want to manifest in my life? And that leads to point number 2, which is inventory. Inventory. When you have an idea, you have to take inventory of what you have. Take stock of your resources. One of my buddies, Mike Sheila, LinkedIn consultant, he linked me with a good, I'd say 20 different authors. I think it was and if I tried to go back, it'd be one heck of a swamp to go through all my LinkedIn messages to find all of them. But he probably made 30 introductions for me when he asked me how can I help after I helped him get on Fox 45 News TV for a couple segments, because he parlayed that into something good to help boost his business and his publicity and his image on TV and help boost his business. So we figured, hey, how can I help you, my friend? And I couldn't think of anything much at the time because the main thing on my mind was a podcast. And he was like, hey, all right, I know authors. How many do you need? And I'm like, oh, as many as you want. He's like, all right, I'm going to go home. And when you go home, make sure you open your LinkedIn profile and you pay attention. And boy, did I pay attention, because I had so many authors, folks from the National Speakers Association, all these other wonderful people. And he made so many introductions. Some said yes, some said no, some still haven't responded to this day. And that's on them. I'm still open to having them on the show, and not to mention, it's still a blessing to have people like that. Like with the show, a guest interview-based show, there's no shortage of guests out there for just about any show, especially in the classic business show, which is kind of oversaturated in the podcasting space, because you can only hear certain tips so many times where you're hearing the same ideas and the same tips, but with a different way, with a different voice and a different story that led to a similar outcome, that led to a similar jewel of wisdom. And as we're walking around with these tennis bracelets of knowledge from this show, if you've been a long-time listener, you have to realize that when you have an idea, you have to also take inventory of what you have. Take stock of your resources. My buddy Mike, he helped me connect with all these other wonderful authors, and that helped me to get my show off to a great start. And what made it even better about it is the fact that there are still some authors in Maryland that I haven't even contacted yet. Because right now I stay swamped with guests. I usually stay 1 to 3 months ahead of time, because that's how my show started. I started out with a good, at least 1 month's worth of content in case I wanted to take a break and to have some cushion. I launched with 7 episodes. Or was it 8? I think it was my goodness, man. It's so much work nowadays. It was about 6 or 7 episodes I launched on day 1, which I believe was September the 14th, and that was on SoundCloud. And then once I got my Libsyn podcast host set up and submitted everything to iTunes, I got on iTunes later that month on September the 28th. And it's been going on and on since then. All because I took inventory of what was in my immediate circle of influence. It may be relationships, which is probably one of the most valuable things you'll ever have in this lifetime, is valuable relationships with valuable people that care about you, people that'll help you. And sometimes strangers can become closer than family sometimes when it comes to support. And you have to take inventory, and it doesn't have to be people resources. It could be financial resources. Like sometimes you have to be a little scrappy. Like if you listen back to some earlier episodes, if you're now listening to me talk right now, you'll notice that the quality has changed greatly. As I was building and modifying things for the podcast website, goingnorthpodcast.com, I was looking back and listening to some of the audio, and I'm like, man, that was trash. That was garbage compared to what I have now, because I have better microphones, I have a better setup, I have a great brand new laptop built for gaming that I use for editing. My intros aren't as long. The interviews are better. I'm being a more active listener. I prepare for just about all my guests in one way or another, some a little more than others if you listen close. And it's all because of inventory. Because when you have an idea, you have to take inventory of what you have. My inventory was the relationship capital that led me to getting a head start and building up the relationships I had up to that point and combining that to have a nice head start with my podcast. So think to yourself, what resources do I have? Like if you have this idea where you may want to write a book. First step, write. I don't know what, just start writing. Get yourself in a writing habit. Every weekend, set aside some time to do some writing. If you want to be like the masters who truly see this as an art and really do it for the love of writing, set a schedule and do something every day. Write every day. In a lot of my speeches, when I mention writing every day, I tell people I didn't write every day. Another reason why my book is skinny, or at least my two books are skinny as they are, because one, I didn't write every day, and two, people don't have the attention spans for it. And speaking of attention spans, if you're still listening, you are a trooper and a gold star and a superstar listener, my friends, and I appreciate you. To close this out, the third piece, the third word I was going to promise you is action. Action. So when you have an idea, build upon it, polish it, refine it, get around people that'll motivate you, encourage you, and nourish that dream of yours. Take inventory of what you have. See if you have the relationship capital to get yourself at a higher level. Heck, even the financial capital. And sometimes it just may even be the energy capital. Because when you have the energy, you will be able to charge forth in life with action. You have to launch and adapt. Earlier in this recording, I mentioned how I launched on SoundCloud and then finally got my host site set up to host these files for you to listen to on all these different platforms and the multiple places that this show can be heard on. And it's all because I decided to launch and adapt. There's a classic phrase, ready, fire, aim. Aim is last, because in this space of creativity and entrepreneurship, you have to launch. You have to learn to ship with what you have and then build up and adapt as you go along. One of my favorite quotes from the book Leadership by John Maxwell is adapt or die. Adapt or die. Because if you do not adapt, death awaits you. And it may not just be the regular physical death or the spiritual death, but it'll be the death of that idea. And you may still have that inventory, but it won't matter if you don't take action to make that idea manifest into reality. So the quick recap. Idea. You have an idea. Know what you want to do. Take inventory of how you can make that idea manifest and make it happen. And last but not least, action. Launch with what you got, because action is the way to make it happen. And to take it to an even higher level, massive intentional action is where it's at. MIA. Massive intentional action. Because once you start and you get going, you build up some momentum, you'll eventually build up enough momentum that other people will take notice. And heck, that's even one of the laws of leadership in John Maxwell's books that he's known for, the law of the big mo. Because when momentum is going and you keep going, people are going to want to catch on to that momentum you have. Because after episode 35 of this show, for those who may have heard me on other shows, you may know the story of how I got this query pitch from a wonderful Interview Connections trying to hook me up with one of their clients, Damian Lupo, author of Reinvented Life, episode 47. Check it out like a library book. Probably one of the best episodes of this podcast. It's in the top 50 for a reason. Episode 47, Black Belt Wealth. And check that episode out because he's a black belt millionaire. A martial artist who created his own martial arts style, made millions, lost millions, and gained millions once again. If that ain't inspiration, I don't know what is. And then being led to Antonio T. Smith, who is one heck of a powerhouse, who just gives massive value. And all these other wonderful humans. And I'm 347 episodes in right now, 347 interviews in right now, with a backlog going up to February 2021. And it's all because of these three things. Of course, with some other things peppered in, but we want to keep this a little short because I've been doing a little bit rambling. And for those who may be in the classic Black Baptist church, they say I'm going to close is really, or if you see the pastor looking at his watch, it's all for show. You still got another hour. But don't worry, you don't have another hour of me talking, at least for this SelfieCast, because I just wanted to get on and share these 3 points. Because one of the most beautiful things in the world is that you can share your gift with others, and when folks acknowledge you and your gift, it's only fitting that you share it with the rest of the world. Now, if you made it to the end, I commend you for being super special awesome, because I want folks to check out goingnorthpodcast.com and feel free to donate if you feel like this podcast has been of value to you, because I'm doing this all from a sense of passion, and this is all from really just not only getting myself out there, but getting other people out there. So if you feel like this show has been of value to you and you've really enjoyed it, feel free to head over to goingnorthpodcast.com and head over to the PayPal button or the Buy Me a Coffee button, or I can even head to my Cash App, like $$ Dom Brightmon, and feel free to donate whatever you feel is necessary for what you've got, not only out of this a little bit of a winding road of a rambling session, and the other 346 and counting episodes in the past that have been of massive value. And I appreciate you for listening, because without you, there would be no show, to be honest, because I keep doing this because I'm grateful for you. And if you really want to show your gratitude, feel free to donate, and I'll be eternally grateful for it. And that's it, folks, for now. So remember, idea, inventory, action. Pursue felicity and simplicity, and that, my friends, are some keys to help you advance further this week. Keep going north.